Welcome, everybody, to the Stronger Together Building an Energy Efficiency Workforce Summit, sponsored by the Ameren, Illinois Energy Efficiency Program and the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center, or SEDAC. We're so thankful to have you all here with us today. The goal of today's meeting is to explore the barriers and potential solutions to building a strong and diverse energy efficiency workforce in Illinois. The energy efficiency workforce has experienced nearly 10% job loss due to the pandemic, while the majority of employers report that it's very difficult to find qualified job candidates. Many populations are severely underrepresented also in the energy efficiency workforce. Through our virtual summit today, we will explore how we can work together to grow this workforce in an equitable manner. To host these discussions, we've invited stakeholders from across the workforce development spectrum to join us, from job seekers to educators to workforce development hubs to state and state agencies. We've invited you all here today because your voice is important in helping us shape and strengthen our energy efficiency workforce. Thank you so much for being willing to spend time with us and contribute to this important effort. I'd like to thank all of our project partners for making this event possible today. Most importantly, thank you to the Ameren, Illinois Energy Efficiency Program for sponsoring our work. Without you, this conversation would not be possible. I'd also like to thank the organizations that helped research, conduct interviews, and develop today's summit. The Indoor Climate Research and Training Center, or ICERT, at the University of Illinois, Dr. Robin Jarrett, Professor Emerita at Human Development and Family Studies at the University of Illinois, the Education Justice Project, and the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. Thank you all for your significant contributions of time, expertise, and knowledge just bringing together today's event and all of the findings that you'll hear today. Let's begin our opening remarks and transition to our keynote speakers for today's event. I would first like to show you a video from the Market Development Initiative at Ameren, Illinois, and then open the floor to Kristol Sims, Director of Energy Efficiency at Ameren, Illinois.
The Market Development Initiative has three goals. First, to provide energy efficiency to those who haven't previously benefited from it. Secondly, to bring local and diverse candidates into this industry. And the third is to grow, expand, or help launch energy efficiency businesses. Partnerships are key to the Market Development Initiative's success, and it's really just a perfect way to bring energy efficiency to those that would benefit from it the most. We are creating a workforce development pipeline for energy efficiency businesses and energy efficiency workers. We work with 6 community colleges to offer scholarships in different areas that would help a candidate enter the energy efficiency field.
So the Ameren Specific Scholarship is looking to support individuals who are underrepresented within their particular field. They wanted to make sure that they saw more women and underrepresented populations as far as ethnicity coming into those spaces.
We also offer internships, so if you're a graduating student, you can get some on-the-ground experience with a local business or nonprofit.
We have been partnering with Ameren for over 10 years. So if we can hire interns to go out and to educate our community in a partnership, people are more likely to open their doors and to listen to somebody talking about energy efficiency and how to save on your utility bill when someone who comes around looks like them.
Investing in a person is a lot of money and time. So Ameren has helped us invest in this person to get them to a place where they're actually making our company profitable.
And then beyond that, we partner with small businesses, nonprofits to do staffing grants or back office services for contractors to allow them to expand their business.
Some businesses are just getting started. Some have been doing this for a while, but don't have the connections to companies like Ameren. Many of them don't have back office support. And so we're going to take that piece off their plate and provide the back office support here while also providing them education and training.
We have programs that work with seniors and deliver meals, as well as community action agencies that provide assistance through LIHEAP or Head Start. And it's all about having that diversity so that we can reach different kinds of customers.
We're working with seniors. Some of them are homebound, they have limitations. So we want to make sure that we continue to promote and educate people about energy efficiency in new and innovative ways.
Each program year, we average about 8,000 customers.
We serve 7 counties in South Central Illinois and 6,000 income qualified households through all of our energy assistance programs each year.
We work with households in Bond, Clinton, Marion, and Washington counties.
The Jobs Board has been able to bring in hundreds of individuals into the energy efficiency realm.
I think Ameren is walking the walk instead of just talking the talk about wanting to bring diversity to their workplace.
I think the market development initiative should continue because it works. I know that's very simple, but it works.
This year it's just been a joy working with Ameren. I look forward to working with them many more years.
This is a way to show that Ameren has been there for us. They're involved in their community. They've partnered up with various organizations of all different walks of people, and they're giving back. They're saying that Ameren cares.
Awesome. What a great video. Thank you so much for sharing that. And to speak more about the Market Development Initiative at Ameren, Illinois, I'd like to introduce Kristol Sims, Director of Energy Efficiency at Ameren, Illinois. Kristol is leading the development and delivery of the $114 million program annually and the community-based program efforts that Ameren, Illinois has undertaken as part of the Market Develop Initiative. Kristol began leading the energy efficiency program team in January 2018, but has been with Ameren, Illinois since 2014. She is an experienced attorney with exceptional talent for client advocacy and the development of proactive, innovative solutions to address corporate business needs and concerns. Kristol has most recently worked as a corporate counsel for Ameren, Illinois, where she drove strategies to address current and emerging regulatory frameworks and their impacts on business operations of the corporate client. At Ameren, Illinois, Kristol served as lead regulatory lawyer on a number of legal matters for the Ameren, Illinois regulatory team. She has also led the diversity and pro bono efforts for the Ameren, Illinois legal team. Kristol is very active in the St. Louis business and legal community. She volunteers as a member of the Missouri Bar's Fee Dispute Resolution Committee and is a past president of the Association of Corporate Counsel in St. Louis. Kristol received her undergraduate degree from Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, and her Juris Doctorate degree from University of Missouri, Columbia. For fun, Kristol loves to read, travel, and spend time with her husband, Walter, and dog, Pepper. Kristol, welcome.
Thank you. So I love that video. I don't like it. It doesn't please me. I love it. And I love it because it captures the most amazing part of our program that makes this work worth doing. It shows the customers, the community organizations, the small businesses, and the families that we are able to touch with our program. So thank you, Cassie, and the entire SEDAC team that has worked so hard to pull this summit together. And thank you to the other project partners, Indoor Climate Research and Training Center, the Education Justice Project, and the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. The SEDAC team and our research partners have adapted flawlessly in the face of every challenge during this project. Our in-person summit has adapted to virtual. Our literature review expanded to include workforce response to a pandemic, and our stakeholder outreach shifted quickly and seamlessly to Zoom calls. As Cassie mentioned, I'm Kristol Sims, and I'm the Director of Energy Efficiency for Ameren, Illinois. I humbly have the pleasure to lead the team that designs and implements our company's energy efficiency programs. Our energy efficiency programs operate on a budget of about $114 million annually, and we serve a broad group of customers in central and southern Illinois, from families to churches to factories to office buildings, all in an effort to save them money, save energy, and improve comfort. As you can imagine, there's a lot that we do with that $114 million, but look, I believe that the work that we do at Ameren, Illinois to build a diverse energy efficiency workforce is critical, because what better way is there to provide these services and programs than to do it in a way that is intentional to build strong, resilient, empowered communities. And workforce development is more important now than ever. In 2019, prior to the pandemic, the energy efficiency industry added more jobs nationally than any other energy sector. The pandemic has slowed that growth, making data-driven workforce efforts like this project even more vital to our progress. And so, in response, at this very moment, we have to be innovative and bold. We have to be intentional and strategic. We have to be compassionate and determined. And we have to come together and work together and support each other and learn from each other to build a strong, diverse energy efficiency workforce. When I really think about what the driver is for me to do this work, in particular related to workforce development, I have to think about and reflect on my own life experiences. And I have to think about the 20-year-old Kristol, packing everything that I owned into my car during the summer of my second year of college and driving across the state of Missouri for a summer internship in Kansas, a place that I had never seen and a place that I had never known. Now, reflecting back, I know that that internship, where I first was introduced to the concepts of environmental justice and learned so much about what it means to be a professional person working, I also know that my experience was likely preceded by hours and hours of work that took place before my summer, where someone stuck their neck out or raised their hand and said, "I think we can," or "I think we should." And with that, the ball started rolling and great things happened to change the lives of so many people just like me who needed that particular opportunity at that particular time. And so as you settle in today, I ask you to think about a time in your life when you were helped or you helped someone with just the right solution at just the right time. And I ask you to settle in and to get comfortable and to engage with us. And I thank you for being a part of our story and supporting our mission to build a strong energy efficiency workforce. Now, I have the pleasure to introduce someone who has provided all of us at Ameren, Illinois, his compassionate vision and incredible leadership, and that is Richard Mark. This program today and our mission is all built upon Richard's charge to us to deliver programs while helping those who need it the most. Richard J. Mark is chairman and president of Ameren, Illinois, which has over $3.2 billion in annual revenue and delivers energy to 1.4 million electric and natural gas customers. Joining Ameren in 2002 as vice president of customer service, he quickly rose to the position of senior vice president of Ameren, Missouri Energy Delivery, becoming the first African-American in that position. He was appointed president of Ameren, Illinois in 2012. His prior experience includes 6 years as president and chief executive officer and 5 years as chief operating officer of St. Mary's Hospital in East St. Louis. He also led the East St. Louis District 189 Financial Oversight Panel. Richard has been instrumental in shaping regulatory policy that is transforming the energy sector in Illinois. He led a bold initiative that expanded access to energy efficiency programs and cost-saving tools for customers, while paving the way for greater access to renewable energy. Under Richard's direction, Ameren, Illinois is modernizing the Illinois electric grid, installing smart technologies, improving reliability, and creating thousands of jobs in communities throughout central and southern Illinois. Richard has received 3 honorary doctorate degrees for his civic and community work, along with numerous awards and honors. In 2019, he was awarded the Senator Richard H. Newhouse Award from the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Foundation and the Leadership Award from the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. In 2018, he received the Leadership Award from the Springfield NAACP, the Visionary Award from the Foundation Fighting Blindness, and was named one of the most powerful executives in America by Black Enterprise Magazine, among many other awards. And one of the coolest things about having Richard speaking with us today is that Richard has sat in the same chair that many of you sit in today. Richard's professional experience includes leading workforce development efforts, very similar to the efforts that we are currently working on with SEDAC to build. So I am very grateful that Richard is a part of the story that brings us all here together today. So welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Kristol, and I thank you, Cassie, and SEDAC, and all of the team and staff at the University of Illinois for putting this program together. And thank all of you that are out there participating in this virtual summit that we're having today. You know, I'm still trying to get used to doing all of these meetings virtually, and it's always a little different and a little difficult. But I think the team today has really put together an exciting program and an exciting agenda for all of you. You know, I was looking through the agenda yesterday that you have planned, and some of the topics, it talks about the lack of awareness, minorities being underrepresented in the energy efficiency workforce, and how do we close that gap. All of those are types of things that Ameren, Illinois looked at back in 2016 and thought about when we tried to design the new energy efficiency programs for our service territory. And just to give you a little perspective, Ameren, Illinois serves approximately 3/4 of the state of Illinois geographically. We go from Galesburg, Illinois, in the northernmost portion of our territory, all the way down to the tip of the state in Kentucky, and then across the state from the Iowa border to the Indiana border, 44,000 square miles. So we have a very diverse service territory, over 1,100 communities in that territories and 83 counties. And so an extremely diverse service territory. And when we started looking at designing our energy efficiency programs, and that were actually expanded in 2016 by legislation through the Illinois General Assembly, a program called the Future Energy Jobs Act that really expanded energy efficiency in the state. And we started looking at, how do we make our programs and design our programs to meet the needs of everyone? We have 1.2 million electric customers, over 800,000 natural gas customers. Each of those customers are paying something in every month to support energy efficiency programs. How do we design programs to give them something back, programs that they can utilize? And so in some of our initial polling that we did and analysis, we were surprised to find that historically, most of the households that benefited from energy efficiency programs were households making over $100,000 per year. And we knew that most of our customers do not make over $100,000 a year. So how do we design programs that are going to meet their needs also? And so, I brought, as you heard, Kristol's passion in her introductory remarks. She started off as a corporate attorney, but when she was handling our case in front of the Illinois Commerce Commission, and as you can tell from her compassion and around making sure that we actually meet the needs and serve the public, I decided that She shouldn't be representing us as an attorney. She should be actually helping us implement and run this program, because she has that passion that is needed to make sure that we're really part of those communities that we serve. And that's what developing, this type of workforce commitment is all about, having the compassion to really meet the needs of the community. You saw the video as we started and that talked about our market development initiative. And, I saw several comments pop up in the chat screen about, a good program. They appreciate the video. But you'd be surprised that the opposition that our program, our energy efficiency program, met when we proposed it to the Illinois Commerce Commission. It actually, many of our program was virtually attacked by a number of stakeholders wanting us to not put money into low to moderate income programs, not to put money into our market development initiative. In fact, there were comments. One comment that I remember from that time, explicitly, is that in testimony at the hearings, one of the opponents of our energy efficiency plan said that serving low-income customers and doing our market development initiative was a luxury we couldn't deserve. If we have to do a program and we can't design that program to meet the needs of every customer, regardless of how much money they make, regardless of their status or their ethnicity, we shouldn't be doing that program with consumer money. And that was the approach we took. Last night in preparing for our remarks today, I wanted to go back and just refresh my memory a little bit. And so I was looking through some files and I saw some headlines from 2017 when our program was we were trying to get approval at the Illinois Commerce Commission. And I'd like to just share a couple of those headlines with you. One of the headlines at that time, when we introduced the market initiative program, when we introduced funding for low to moderate income families, when we reduced the programs to provide senior citizens on fixed income the ability to take advantage of our HVAC replacement program. The headline was Ameren looking to circumvent new Illinois energy rules. One I thought was kind of interesting because we stood fast on our commitment to low to moderate income. One headline was a tale of two utilities. The other says Ameren plans stokes division in Illinois. Another headline says controversial Ameren energy efficiency plan finally wins approval. And I would like to just publicly thank the Illinois Commerce Commission because in the face of just tremendous opposition of wanting us to meet target numbers, not meet the needs of the customers that we serve, the Illinois Commission voted to let us implement our market development initiative. And that market development initiative over the last 3.5 years has really proved, in my opinion, to really benefit not only our customers, but the entire state of Illinois. Last year, that program allowed us to spend $9.5 million with diverse businesses that had never done business in the energy efficiency space before. It allowed us to offer internships that you saw in the video, as well as partnering with other minority businesses to offer programs to help other businesses come into the energy efficiency space. It allowed us to offer scholarships. You saw some of those in the students in the video. Scholarships for students to go to community colleges to learn about energy efficiency, to learn about construction management, HVAC, and other types of programs that would be needed in the energy efficiency space. And then it also allowed us to partnership with many of minority businesses throughout the state to help them, understand and become more aware of opportunities in the energy efficiency space to expand and grow their businesses. And, I take a lot of pride in being able to do that. I know our staff does. I know you heard it in Kristol's passion voice. But, those are programs that if we hadn't been able to be really push that through the commission, they would not have happened, because many of the stakeholders in this process look at hitting certain targeted numbers, and sometimes you have to put those numbers aside when you're looking at meeting the needs of such diverse populations. When we look at even contracting out services, and we many times corporations look at buying from the lowest bidder, and obviously to be efficient and to operate efficient operations of our company, we look at the lowest bidder also, but also we look at the diversity and the communities that those bidders are from. And sometimes we have to make exceptions and say, well, we're going to pay a little bit more for this service because this is a local business. This is a business that's in that community. This is a diverse business. And, I think when you look at the energy efficiency space, you have to take that same approach. You have to look at not do we meet our target number on kilowatt hours saved, but do we look at the individuals and the people that we save? Do we look at the families that we're able to pull together and help with offering new products to them? Do we look at the small businesses that are able to grow from maybe one or two employees to larger employees? I know one of our small diverse businesses grew from 4 employees to over 50. And those types of stories are the things that really grow communities. And that's what's important. And so, as we look forward to the day and you get to your breakout sessions, I encourage you to have those discussions, and sometimes difficult discussions, on how do we combine the goals of creating a cleaner environment for our country, but at the same time we meet the needs of the people that we are serving. We meet the needs of every customer that's out there, all of our residential customers, our commercial customers, and industrial customers. And I would say that it takes courage in order to do that, and it takes people to develop partnerships to work together with a common cause, and that common cause is to make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone that's being served. So as we look forward to the future, at Ameren, Illinois, we know that there's more opportunities out there. And so this past February, we actually introduced some legislation that would really call the Downstate Clean Energy and Affordability Act, and really to help push the renewable energy and energy efficiency and cleaner energy further in central and southern Illinois. And our plan that we talk about is being able to expand solar facilities that are owned and developed by the utility, by Ameren, Illinois, because we would identify and locate those facilities in moderate to low income communities. We've actually targeted 50 of the poorest zip codes in the state of Illinois in our service territory, and looked at opportunities to put solar facilities in those communities. While we're putting solar facilities there, how do we provide workforce development and training for the people that can help build them as well as maintain them? We also, in that program, are looking at how do we expand the electrification transportation sector in central and southern Illinois. And that 44,000 square mile area of our service territory, there are only 60 public charging stations. How do we build an infrastructure or develop a workforce team that can actually expand that electrification of our transportation sector and open those opportunities throughout the state, whether it's on the highways or whether it's in those low to moderate income communities where we don't find an interest of other private sector businesses or commercial businesses wanting to come and do that development and build those charging stations in those communities. But we feel that with a program that we've designed, we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to work with school districts to provide electric buses and provide training programs in those schools that talk about energy efficiency and renewable energy. And so those are some of the basic components of legislation that we've introduced, and we're planning to introduce some amendments to that legislation next year. And one of those amendments will be to require diversity, equity, and inclusion for every provider that benefits from dollars collected from utility customers. Right now, we talk about the programs that Ameren, Illinois has done, and every utility reports annually on their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the state. We want everyone who is benefiting from dollars that are collected for energy efficiency, for renewable energy, to participate with the same commitment, the same passion that Kristol has, and with the same focus on how do you expand opportunities for minorities, minority businesses, as far as a minority workforce throughout the state. We recently were working with some renewable energy providers, developers, and looking at the list of many of those contracts that were awarded by the state, 7 out of the 10 largest contracts were for developers that were not in Illinois, that did not have commitments or goals for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we feel that if we're going to really be serious about expanding diversity in our state, if we're going to be serious about expanding diversity in the energy efficiency sector and in the renewable energy business, we have to make sure that every person that is involved, every business that is involved, does their part to work with all of you there today to really help expand and develop partnerships that we're working for one goal. And that is not the goal of not only bringing clean energy for the state of Illinois, but making sure that we have a diverse workforce to meet those clean energy needs in the future. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Cassie.
Thank you so much, Richard. Such inspirational messages that you just gave, but really, I think the thing that got to me most about what you said was, the stories that grow communities and how do we create the environment that meets the needs of every customer. Even my mom is meeting the need and participating in one of the first community solar arrays here, and that's helping her save money on her energy bills. So I look forward to thinking about how we can continue to build those stories and grow the workforce, meeting and diversifying that workforce to meet those needs of our community. So thank you very much for your remarks, Richard. And we're so thankful that Ameren, Illinois is so committed to growing and diversifying our energy efficiency workforce, and also has the compassion to work towards growing those energy efficiency opportunities across communities in the Ameren, Illinois territory. So thank you. Thank you both. And thank you to Kristol as well, too, for your comments about and driving equitable growth in our energy efficiency program. So thank you. Thank you for Ameren's commitment. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing a very inspirational and visionary keynote speaker, Jamira Burley, activist and head of skills at the Global Business Coalition for Education. Recognized by the Obama White House as the champion of change and a Forbes under 30 honoree in law and policy, Jamira has made it her mission to employ her personal experiences as the driving force to improve the lives of others. From implementing anti-violence programs through the city of Philadelphia, where she was just a high school student, to organizing youth trainings around the world as an appointee for the United Nations Global Education First Initiative Youth Advocacy Group, Jamira's adore for personal and social achievement is undeniable. Jamira leads with expertise on workforce development, social justice, youth engagement, education reform, and corporate social responsibility to authentically reshape communities and disrupt the status quo. In 2018, Jamira was the first United States citizen awarded the Global Leadership Award for Vital Voices and selected as an MIT Media Lab Fellow. Today, she works as the Next Gen Social Impact Consultant and Head of Youth Engagement and Skills for the Global Business Coalition for Education, working to create collaborative relationships among youth, bilateral agencies, governments, and business leaders to enable innovative ways to educate, engage, and activate young people around the world. Prior to the Global Business Coalition for Education, Jamira was the National Deputy Millennial Vote Director for Hillary for America, former manager at Amnesty International USA, overseeing the U.S. justice portfolios addressing gun violence, police accountability, and criminal justice reform. I can't wait to have our discussion after all of these inspirational messages, but I'm so excited to welcome you, Jamira, to our summit today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's so funny when people read my bio, I'm just like, why did I give all of that? Thank you for having me and for that amazing introduction. I'm super excited to be here. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to spend my Friday morning with you all in a solution-oriented space at a time of somewhat great uncertainty that has impacted all of our lives, our communities, the spaces and places we work. I'd like to first thank the organizers and the sponsors for cultivating and creating this space and for enabling me to participate. Now, I know originally we were all expected to attend this summit in person, but due to the global spread of COVID-19, it has forced all of us to reimagine how we live, how we work and play. The same thing can be said for how the innovation of the fourth industrial revolution is requiring all of us to re-examine how we create pathways for upward mobility. That also requires us to re-examine those pathways for marginalized communities. This is also going to require all of us to think about how do we skill up, how do we reskill, and working with our communities, institutions, and government to meet the demands now before we potentially drive more communities further into poverty and potentially set future generations up for carrying the burden of our past failures. The work ahead may seem very daunting and every single day. And when I think about what we have to do in order to move our communities forward, it seems very daunting and insurmountable. But I'm convinced that with collaborations across all stakeholders, we can make collective impact that is needed to not only move our communities forward, but enable our communities to start thriving. Now, other than the fact that I'm a millennial who, we tend to think we know it all, I'm sure many of you are wondering, what does criminal justice or social justice know or understand about the intersectionalities of workforce development and really the needs, gaps, and opportunities for creating and cultivating an efficient workforce? Well, I'm here to tell you that those two worlds are so much more connected than many people give them credit for. If there's one thing that I've learned over the last 15 years, is that the issues like violence are oftentimes the public face for much deeper systematic problems wrong within our communities that are often rooted and reflective in our opportunity gap for the most marginalized and the most vulnerable communities. And I want to ensure that as we are thinking through, as we're brainstorming, what are the solutions for change, for building an efficient workforce, that we're reminded of those who are at the margins of our society and their unique barriers that may prevent them from fully participating within our communities and within potential workforce opportunities. Because I'm sure, as all of you know, we've all seen how those who lack agency are crushed by society, right? We've seen how the world can crush those, especially the littlest and those with the least. And with the global challenges of 2020 that has in many ways highlighted the inequalities and brought forth how communities are at their tipping point, it can be challenging to look ahead when we are barely keeping our heads above water and remaining to try to stay sane in the process. Now, I'm going to talk about one special group that I think are desperate for opportunities and whose opportunities and populations transcend communities and oftentimes transcends the most marginalized groups, everything from gender, race, sexual orientation, people with disabilities. And as you might have guessed it, I'm going to talk about young people because I think that any solution for change we have to center those who are our littlest and our youngest, which, considering Illinois' population, which is about 25 to 30% young people under the age of 25, it can really help decide the future of your state. And with that state, like many states, like the state that I'm from, Pennsylvania, we are constantly faced with the brain drain, right? With young people being forced to seek opportunities elsewhere. Now, the brain drain isn't just flocking to different geographical areas, but also to the private sector. The pace of change in the fourth industrial revolution and the pace in which new technology is being developed means that we can no longer overlook the growing concerns to reform our educational institutions to enable young people to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, and skills development in real time that meets the needs of today and the future workforce. Which is why I think it's important to note that any community, city, or state can't look to survive long-term without ensuring that young people have the skills, but also the opportunities that will enable them to create their own version of the American dream. And with many of our elders, or I should say more of our seasonal populations who are staying in the workforce much longer, it creates an even more unique disadvantage for young people who are now becoming job seekers right along with their parents and oftentimes their grandparents. Now, I'm sure, as you all have know is that the cat is out the bag, right? Regarding the real world workforce disruptions due to the improvement of automation, artificial intelligence, and robotics. Advancements that will dramatically impact communities' availability to both our aging and our coming of age populations, especially in our blue collar industries, which will see the most dramatic overhaul. Now, we already have seen examples of how new technology is infiltrating our everyday lives, everything from ordering food to paying for services, self-driving cars, 3D printing. But these investments and advancements are outpacing a very critical component within our society, which is workforce development, education. Young people have to not only be at the center of these strategies in many cases, but they can't be left out of the conversation and included in the process of how we're restructuring our communities to meet these needs. Now, while the US spends nearly $1.3 trillion on public education, the majority of which comes from local and state taxes, the system is continuing to fail our students. Not only are schools overcrowded and physically falling apart, they are also stuck training young people for the last significant workforce disruption, which is the Industrial Revolution of the 1800s. One analogy I like to use oftentimes enough is when we think about the iPhone, and I'm curious, how many of you have the iPhone? Just raise your hand or like put up a happy face. Okay, so everyone has an iPhone. And as we know, Apple just came out with a new iPhone. If we look at the last 10 years of Apple's technology, specifically looking at the Apple phone, we've had 10 phones that have transformed how folks are communicating across communities and across countries with each other. Education hasn't changed for the last 100 years to even meet that need. So we are really faced with a dire situation where young people are just not prepared. Students and communities are faced with two very different trajectories, leaving them unable to fully participate in the growing economy and causing a widening of skills gap that is broadening the potential lifelong economic burdens that are going to be inflicted onto vulnerable communities. And while change cannot happen overnight, we can have more significant collective impact if we think about cross-sector collaborations, which means that governments can't do it alone, corporations can't do it alone, civil societies can't do it alone, educational institutions can't do it alone. And we can't then look at young people and say, why haven't you gotten the job you need in order to survive, right? We have to think about how do we work collaboratively together in order to future-proof these communities, these cities, and our states, which I think we have to start by first prioritizing young people. The same way somebody prioritized me, right? You see, I was born into a city that was in the aftermath on the war on drugs to a teenage mother who had her first child at the age of 15. And by the time I was old enough to kind of drive, I was surrounded by 15 siblings in a household that had long since forgotten my father's footsteps because he had found home in an 8x8 cell, unknowingly setting into motion my 10 older brothers following his path and continuing the generational cycle of trauma. You know, as a child growing into these environments and watching these incidents occur over and over to my community, to people in my family, and even to how the depictions of minorities were put on TV, it aided in my view of how I saw people were treated versus what I thought they deserved. For years, as I watched as both of my parents and all 10 of my older brothers moved in and out of the criminal justice system, I started to think that this was just normal, right? These are the normal things happening into communities everywhere. But normal doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it just or humane. Our communities, our families, our societies deserve better. And as a young person, I was given opportunities by the mentors that I was surrounded by to gain the knowledge, the information that I needed in order to move throughout my educational experience and then enter the workforce. They utilized their access, their privilege, their credibility to enable for me to be exposed to a world outside of my zip code, which later enabled me to become the first in my family to not only graduate high school, but to go into college.
Oh no, I think Jamira froze.
Institutions and organizations that are working to engage young people and enable for them to have the skills they need to be successful. Young people, including millennials and Gen Zs, account for about 25% of the working population. They oftentimes account for more than half of the low working jobs. They are disproportionately share the unemployment rate along with their parents and grandparents. I can't tell you enough how even more important it is now to think about how are we upscaling young people to take advantage of these new age opportunities that will move them out of the hourly paid workers into full-time careers that will benefit their communities and their families. Because at the heart of it, we're talking about quality, right? We're talking about inclusive education. We're talking about trainings that will create pathways for young people to be productive citizens within society and able for them to create a new reality. And at this very volatile moment within our history, is important for all of us not to leave this conference, not to leave this this segment without truly understanding the importance that we're all faced with, as well as the responsibilities that we all have. Every single one of us are here today because someone believed that we mattered. They saw our potential. They believed that our potential was limitless. Some who used their access, their network, their privilege to enable for us, oftentimes faceless young people, to have the necessary tools in order for us to achieve our goals. That is not unique just to the work that needs to happen in Illinois, but also the work that needs to happen in America and around the world. Currently, the world is faced with its largest youth population the world has ever seen. 1.8 billion young people, most of whom who are growing up in countries and communities that are grappling with nationalism ideology. Millions of girls are still forced into child marriage. Boys everywhere are faced to become child soldiers, whether on the south side of Chicago or in villages in Sudan. Basic necessities like clean water, healthcare, education, and a safe place to lay their head is becoming more and more of a foreign concept, only accessible by the privilege and the wealthy communities. And so every single day we need to question, what can we do? How can we work more to ensure that we're not jeopardizing the future of our young people and in turn jeopardizing the future of our communities? These circumstances actually put all of us at risk. They put every one of us in jeopardy when we don't make sustainable change to improve the lives of young people. They are our children, they are our communities, they are our cities. So now is not time to hide our heads in the sand and to just pray it away. There is work to be done. There is space and place for all of us to roll up our sleeves. Every single moment, we have to be thinking that what are we doing? What do we have the ability, the access to do more? This is an area, or I should say, an era of opportunities. And if we plan and work together for a common goal to solve some of the most controversial issues facing our communities, utilizing workforce as a gateway to do so, we can ensure that the emerging skills of the future, which is workforce readiness, soft skills, technical skills, and entrepreneurship, are provided to not just young people, but holistically to communities around the world and around this the state of Illinois. That being said, this work cannot be done in silos, right? It requires all of us to be actively engaged with our communities, with the business leaders, with the issue experts, with the community leaders, and also with young people. They need to be involved at every single layer of decision-making process. They need to be included in decisions about them. We have the ability to stop an entire generation from falling victim to social and economic vulnerabilities. It is up to us to charter that future. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to working with you all as we move our communities forward, but also ensuring that young people are able to participate in that forward moving as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamira. So many of the things that you said have I really love the connection that you made today to drawing, you know, I think some sort of violence and workforce development and economic opportunity, but I also love what you brought to the table in terms of including everybody's voice. Those job seekers need to be at the table, and we need to actively involve them in conversations, and it's not easy. It's not easy to do that sometimes, but those efforts to bring everybody to the table are so important to build this just workforce. So thank you so much for your comments, Jamira. Let's continue our conversation. So I am actually going to turn it over to Patrick, Dr. Patrick Sullivan here. And really, now let's jump into the findings. So hold your thoughts on the keynotes. I'm sure you have a lot. During this session, I'm sure you wrote down some bullet points for our morning keynotes and opening remarks. But let's go in to begin presenting our findings around 3 primary barriers to growing and diversifying the energy efficiency workforce. So we're going to cover 3 topics: lack of awareness in energy efficiency jobs, diversity in energy efficiency jobs, and skills and training gaps. SEDAC conducted extensive literature review and over 40 interviews across energy efficiency stakeholders in Illinois to generate the findings that will be presented today. Each of these segments will consist of a brief presentation of findings, feature an organizations overcoming these barriers, and then we will break out into our breakout groups for reflection and discussion. Our first barrier that we will discuss in growing and diversifying the energy efficiency workforce is lack of awareness in energy efficiency jobs. Dr. Patrick Sullivan, Program Manager at SEDAC, will share our research findings on this subject. Welcome, Dr. Sullivan, and thanks for presenting today.
Thank you, Cassie, and thank you everybody for being here. Again, my name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm a program manager at SEDAC, and I've been managing the Workforce Development and Diversification Project. And as Cassie said, we started with a literature review. We did some focus groups with Ameren's Market Development Initiative. We followed that up with an extensive interview process where we interviewed people from across 5 stakeholder groups throughout the state: energy efficiency employers, workforce development coordinators, community support providers, energy efficiency training providers, and also a few job seekers. And what I'm going to do is present our findings specifically on lack of awareness and how lack of awareness of energy efficiency jobs and careers represents a real barrier into getting people into the pipeline and supplying qualified workers into the workforce. And I've got a little Prezi presentation here, and it's a depiction of an iceberg. And really the point is that everything that seems to be happening in the energy efficiency workforce is happening below the surface, out of most people's awareness. So when we started doing our research, we identified a number of challenges associated with workforce development and energy efficiency. First thing we noticed is there's a couple of misconceptions out there that point to a certain amount of cognitive dissonance. The first one is that to get into the energy efficiency field, you need a 4-year degree from a college. And on the other hand, there's another misconception that says that trade programs, which provide a lot of the workers into the energy efficiency workforce, are only suitable for low-performing students. So on the one hand, you need a college degree. On the other hand, the field is only for low-performing students. So I think those 2 things kind of combine to keep a lot of people away from the field. And I think these misconceptions are rooted in a widespread and pervasive lack of awareness of what energy efficiency careers are and the training programs that can bring you to those careers. So the SEDAC team interviewed a number of stakeholders from across the state, and we asked them a subset of questions about lack of awareness to get their ideas on, first of all, how big of a barrier it is and how we might overcome it. And to share those findings with you, we're gonna play a little game here that's similar to 2 truths and a lie. So I'm gonna show you 3 quotes, 2 of which came from our interviews, and 1 of them which was made up by me. And then we'll have a little poll, and what I want you to do is to identify the quote that I made up. So the first set of quotes will have to do with comments that emerged from our interviews surrounding awareness of careers and training paths for energy efficiency jobs. So I'm going to read the 3 quotes to you, and these all come from energy efficiency training providers. So the first one is, people don't know what energy efficiency jobs do. A student is leery of applying because they don't even know what it is. Another training provider talked about how the difficulties in finding the right path for students interested in efficiency. So he said, HVAC is over here. Oh, you're in building and renewables? You're over there. Truthfully, there is zero difference between electrical, building, HVAC, and renewables in this small realm of what we're talking about. And finally, another training provider said, when students finish our training and get a certificate in energy efficiency, many of them go out and find jobs in construction, HVAC, weatherization, and lots of other things. So my question to you is, which one of those do you think I made up? And we're going to present a poll here. And if you can just use your mouse and select which answer you think, or which quote you think I made up. Now, if you're on the phone, please bear with us. You won't be able to see the poll, but I'll just talk about it in a moment. If you get the correct answer, your prize is a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart, or maybe a feeling of superiority that you outsmarted me. If you get the wrong answer, you're still a good person. It's no problem. So here, looks like the votes are coming in. Look at how fast we tabulate these votes. Isn't that amazing? Counting, it's not as hard as it ought to be. All right, looks like we got about a little over half of the votes in. So let's just look. Looks like most people are saying the quote that I made up is the second one. And actually, the quote that I made up is the third one, where I say, students finish our training program and they go out and find jobs in this field. I would love that to be a true quote. Unfortunately, we're not finding people saying that. What we're finding is people saying that, students don't know what energy efficiency is, they don't know how to get into it. And the second quote, now, I didn't want you to evaluate the truthfulness of the quote, or I just wanted you to guess which one I made up. So you may not agree with this quote, but it did come from a training provider. And I think his point was, there's no single path to energy efficiency as far as he knows. And it's difficult sometimes to put students in the right path to get them where they want to go. So this lack of awareness represents a real problem in recruiting new people into the energy efficiency professions. And it also creates kind of a confusion in training, because there's confusion in the training pathways. There's no clear path about which training course to take in order to get into energy efficiency. All right, moving on. So now I'm going to give you another series of quotes surrounding comments about defining and understanding energy efficiency jobs. And again, I'm not looking for you to evaluate the accuracy or the truthfulness of the quote, but which one do you think came from a real person and which one do you think I made up? So the first quote, a lot of students come to us interested in energy efficiency, but then they usually end up focusing on something else like HVAC, engineering, etc. Another interviewee said, the career path isn't so clear. There's no Department of Labor job code for an energy auditor. People kind of come to it accidentally. And finally, the third quote, when people think about energy efficiency, they mistakenly think of clean power, of solar, of wind, of what they can see. They don't think of energy efficiency. So which one of these three quotes do you think I made up, leaving the other two coming from real people working out there in the field who actually know what's happening? So just take a couple of seconds to give it your best guess. Don't overthink it. I wish we had prizes for you, but unfortunately, you'll just have to walk away with a smile on your face because you got it right. All right, so it looks like we're a little over halfway of the votes counted. And I'll tell you, yeah, it looks like most of you identified the made-up quote, which if you paid attention to the previous slide, hopefully was a bit of a clue. We don't find that students are coming into programs looking for energy efficiency and then finding other pathways. In fact, we usually find the opposite is true. They come in interested in other things and then they accidentally find energy efficiency. What is apparent is that like the government doesn't really track a lot of these jobs. So a high school counselor can't look at the forecasts over the next 5 years and say, oh, there's going to be a big demand in energy auditors. Maybe we ought to push people in that direction. So there's just no awareness about it. And this lack of awareness really keeps qualified people and people interested in energy efficiency away from the field. So the question is, what can we do about this? So we asked our interviewees not only what the problems were, but we asked them how we might go about raising awareness about energy efficiency and energy efficiency careers throughout the state. So there are three categories of solutions here. One is obviously how do we raise awareness? And the consensus seems to be we need to start early in grade school and high schools so that we can give children a vocabulary that they can draw on, a framework that they can understand what energy efficiency careers might be, so that when they get into high school and they start thinking about next steps, that these pathways become kind of selections on a menu of possible pathways. Right now, when high school students are thinking about what's next, energy efficiency isn't even on the menu, so they don't even think about it. We also heard that we need to find and empower diverse leaders to share their experiences, and we'll be talking more about this when Dr. Jarrett talks about diversity, and also to provide better and more detailed career-based information. The second suggestion for how we can improve things, and this is one of our main findings in the project, is that we need to do a better job of coordinating efforts among different stakeholder groups. We need to be able to form partnerships with community-based organizations who know the landscape and who can tap into the local wells of wisdom in their communities. We need to do a better job of establishing dedicated communications channels. Most of the communications between stakeholder groups now tend to be informal, and we'll talk more about this. I think Linda Larson will talk more about that in her presentation. We need to share industry-focused employment information, establish job clearinghouses, and form professional groups surrounding energy efficiency. So with something like the Illinois Energy Efficiency Association that could help promote the field and raise awareness. All right, and now finally education. People suggested that we that it would be helpful to develop internship programs for high school students where they can get real world hands-on experience, get a taste for what the work is like, and maybe get drawn into the field. We need to provide more multidisciplinary systems-based energy efficiency college courses. It's great to have somebody to train somebody how to wire or repair an air conditioning unit, but it's something else completely to have them understand how that air conditioning unit fits into the whole system of the house with its envelope and weatherization and other systems that are important in energy efficiency. And again, we need to increase access to on-the-job training. It's a technical field that's advancing and changing very quickly. People need to be kept up to speed. All right. So that was very quickly some of our findings and recommended solutions for raising awareness of energy efficiency careers. And I'd want to shift gears a little bit and show you a short video of Dr. Eloise Thomas, the Chief Administrative Officer at SEAL LLC. We'll see this short video where she'll talk about some of these issues that I've addressed, as well as some things we'll address here in a few moments. So I'll throw it back to Cassie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for speaking. We look forward to sharing this video. SEAL LLC is doing some incredible work.
SEAL LLC stands for Solutions for Energy Efficient Logistics. We are one of the largest minority-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned entity within the energy efficiency and implementation space. We offer a full suite of services, including energy efficiency education, as well as building retrofits, call center services, outreach, and appliance recycle programs to our utility partners. Over the past 11 years, we've been directly able to service over 500,000 customers, 500,000 homes, a few 100,000 small businesses, as well as a market leader as it relates to reaching hard to reach customers and income qualified customers, which are our most vulnerable population. We're often asked to speak in the community. This could be at a church, a community action agency, or nonprofit. And when we do, we often talk about career opportunities in energy. When talking to school-aged children, particularly those who are thinking about a career in energy, we can tell them about the jobs of the future in energy and a career path that may be meaningful for what they're interested in. To speak to them, at an early age, because sometimes the trade positions in the building science, they can pursue a BPI certification or some of the other certifications to really allow them a career path in energy without attending college. Of course, I'm pro-college, but at the same time, it's not for everyone, right? And so they have opportunities to pursue trades and other tactics to enter this workforce. We have to be prepared and prepare the workforce today. As a 100% service-disabled veteran and minority-owned entity, I will also go one step further to say that we have to ensure that there is representation from African Americans and other ethnic minorities in these ranks. As a leader in the industry, we would be remiss if we didn't make that effort to look out for people that look like us and the communities that we serve.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that awesome video. And thank you to Dr. Thomas and SEAL LLC for being willing to be featured for your work. You're really impacting the energy efficiency workforce in such a positive way and also helping improve people's livelihoods across the Midwest. Thank you also to Dr. Sullivan. I think that was a really fun way to help present the findings on this subject. So let's move on to our next barrier, diversity in the energy efficiency workforce. I'm excited to welcome Dr. Robin Jarrett, Professor Emerita of Family Studies in the Department of Human Development and Family Studies, and Emerita faculty member in the Department of African American Studies at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. You can learn more about Robin in the biographies document shared in the chat. She will share our research findings on this subject. So welcome, Dr. Jarrett.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to have you here, and I'm glad to be here. So today, my talk will focus on diversity in the energy efficiency workforce, and we'll get this going. There we are. And I'll begin by talking about the faces of diversity, just who are the underrepresented. I'll talk about the community context of diversity, but most of my remarks will describe the social and personal challenges facing underrepresented groups and how we can address those challenges. So which groups are underrepresented in the energy efficiency workforce? Relative to men, we're less likely to see women in the energy efficiency workforce. We see more older people in the energy efficiency workforce, but many will be transitioning out through retirement. Therefore, we'll be looking more to a younger people to enter the energy efficiency workforce. Not surprisingly, individuals with disabilities and formerly incarcerated returning citizens are poorly represented in the energy efficiency workforce. Low-income individuals are not well represented, yet these are the people sorely in need of work to improve their life chances. With respect to race and ethnicity, African Americans comprise a very small portion of the overall energy efficiency workforce, whereas Latinos tend to be concentrated in lower wage sectors as opposed to professional and managerial positions. Rural and urban locations may pose particular challenges to diversifying the energy efficiency workforce. Some of you describe rural areas as forgotten places without the infrastructure to sustain energy efficiency services. Urban areas may have long histories of job loss, declines in supportive social and educational institutions that make it difficult to develop a skilled energy efficiency workforce that, I quote, is shovel ready. So what are the individual and social barriers that make it difficult for underrepresented groups to fully engage in the energy efficiency workforce? Childcare was very much an issue raised by women. Issues included finding good quality care, affordable care, and finding childcare when they worked late shifts. Underrepresented groups often bring to the workplace biographies characterized by trauma and poverty. When there's trauma, there's a lot of energy that goes into daily coping that makes it difficult to concentrate on work. Growing up in generational poverty makes it difficult to believe that stable work is possible and that hard work pays. Many underrepresented group members have health issues, asthma, diabetes, obesity, as well as substance usage issues that make it difficult to maintain employment. Health challenges may mean time away from work for doctor's visits or feeling unwell. In some instances, energy efficiency jobs were viewed as dirty work or devalued manual labor. And younger workers may be particularly aware of cultural biases that give higher status to white-collar work. We heard that potential job seekers from underrepresented groups perceived energy efficiency jobs as low-wage work. So, for example, weatherization jobs were cited as examples of jobs that didn't pay a living wage. Believing this about the overall industry led some job seekers to rule out energy efficiency jobs as an attractive work option. Some schools have lost their role in the energy efficiency employment pipeline. The decline of shop classes has meant fewer young people are aware of energy efficiency jobs or have early training that prepares them for energy efficiency jobs. Also, schools may emphasize college-based careers over careers in the energy efficiency field. Stereotypes abounded that could have a negative impact on job prospects for underrepresented groups. For example, there was the view that women would not like energy efficiency jobs because they were less physically fit. Minority group members had a poor work ethic, and returning citizens were characterized as dangerous felons. We sometimes forget that even when training is free or very low cost, members of underrepresented groups are still unable to take advantage of them. Low income and minority individuals are often working multiple low-wage jobs and can't afford to take time away for a training program. Virtually everyone we talk to identify transportation as a barrier to workforce engagement. Transportation challenges took the form of a lack of a car, no money for insurance, lack of money for public transportation, or public transportation schedules that were at odds with job schedules. So in spite of these very real challenges, social support emerged as a very important strategy to engage underrepresented groups in the energy efficiency workforce. And there were some key elements of social support. Support should be long-term and ongoing. Continue to support individuals even when they've completed various programs. Support should address personal and health issues. This support should also take into account group-specific needs for people with disabilities or women or returning citizens. At the core of social support were the mentors. Mentors' lives were often testimonies that gave hope, reassured people that social mobility was possible. Mentors tended to be multifaceted. Sometimes they were the bad cops who checked up to make sure you were going to training classes, but they were also caring people who expressed their concern for the young people they supported, and comes out so beautifully in that quote of being a mother with 2 little boys. So to conclude, I hope my remarks provide a sense of the real people that we talk about as underrepresented, and by understanding their lives, we can continue to refine our efforts to diversify the energy efficiency workforce. So that's the end of my remarks, and we have a wonderful clip that I hope conveys much of what I've talked about this morning. So I'll turn it over to Cassie.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jarrett. And we will show an awesome video from the Southtown Construction Training Center, BONE LLC, an organization that's doing incredible work to grow diversity within our workforce.
My name is Calvin Pitts. I am the CEO of Southtown Construction Training Program. Southtown Construction Training Center is a not-for-profit that was created to help educate and groom, if you will, individuals for the construction industry. The partnership with Ameren is great. We are able to add the energy efficiency component to what we do. It allows us to educate them in an area that typically has been ignored even in our training. My training facility is located in the heart of the east side of Springfield, which is also where I grew up. I grew up in the projects on the east side of Springfield. I deal with guys that are coming off the street selling drugs. I deal with guys, again, with drug habits. I deal with individuals that come in with hygiene issues, communication issues. My focus is dealing with the whole man, because teaching a person how to wire up a switch or a fan, I found that, if a guy is really interested, that's not hard. They get in, they engage, and they can do that. But being able to, dig in and see why you are where you are. What are some of the things that's held you back? Why do you think that you are probably not where you think you should be? And what are some of the things that you can do moving forward today to change that? I really seen potential in those guys. I don't look at them like they are. I look at them as what they could be.
What an awesome message to end on. I see them for as they are and what they could be. That's amazing. Thank you so much to BONE LLC for allowing us to share this video today. And thank you to Dr. Jarrett, too, once more for presenting our findings around diversity in the energy efficiency workforce. We have another barrier presentation to share. And so it's around skills and training gaps. So I'd like to welcome Linda Larson, our publications coordinator here at SEDAC, to present on these findings. So I'm really excited to hear from Linda. So thanks, Linda, for presenting, and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to join you here today. I'm going to be talking about skills and training gaps. But before we do that, I would like to start by discussing some of the overall energy efficiency workforce here in Illinois, giving you a big picture view of the numbers, how many people are in the energy efficiency workforce And is it growing? Is it shrinking? What does that look like? So we're going to start with a little poll question. So in Illinois, how much did energy efficiency jobs grow in 2019? All right. Thank you. It looks like most of you are somewhere in the range of 4%, 6%, 8%. Let's learn about the actual growth here. All right. So energy efficiency employers in Illinois predicted that there would be 8% job growth in 2019. But actually, we just saw 1.7% job growth, which is significant, but a little bit less than what we were quite a bit less than what we were expecting. So we have 91,000 workers at the end of 2019. Now, according to the U.S. Energy and Employment report, energy efficiency employers predicted 4% growth in 2020, but that's of course not what happened because of the pandemic. So we've seen about 9% decline in energy efficiency jobs since pre-COVID-19, and this is in Illinois. We were up here at 91,000 at the beginning, and then we dropped rapidly in March and April. We've seen some growth, but it's been slow, and we're still far below what we were pre-COVID. Now, the other issue is that we've been experiencing hiring difficulty even before the pandemic. So I have another quick poll question for all of you. In Illinois in 2019, what percentage of energy efficiency employers indicated that it was somewhat difficult or very difficult to fill jobs? All right, we've got a bunch of 70%, some 50%, a little bit of 90 and 30. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the actual results from the U.S. Energy the U.S. Energy and Employment Report. In 2019, 61% of employers that were surveyed indicated that it was very difficult, and 29% said somewhat difficult. So if you add those up, that's a full 90% of Illinois energy efficiency employers that indicated that it was difficult to fill jobs. And if you look at the 2018 numbers, almost double the amount of employers indicated that it was very difficult. So to me, this indicates a big problem, that we are not growing as much as we should, and also it's hard for energy efficiency employers to fill those jobs. Now, according to the report, there were some, there's a large range of energy efficiency jobs, and some of those jobs are more difficult to fill than others. The construction industry, they make up about 50% of the energy efficiency workforce. And these darker blue squares indicate where the majority of employers are having a hard time filling jobs. So installation workers, technical, mechanical support, here in manufacturing, production positions, and in trade and distribution, sales and marketing. But these other positions too express difficulty. Engineering and science, you see this, sales and marketing in several of these sectors, and finally inspectors. So the purpose of this particular presentation is to explore why it's difficult to fill jobs. So there were three main reasons that that the U.S. Energy and Employment Report shared, and these reasons were also supported by our own research in Illinois in conducting interviews with employers and training providers. So the number one reason that employers gave was a lack of experience, training, and technical skills. And these are some of the things that our interviewees said. It's just a lot easier to train someone that already has a background in the trades. So they wanted people to have trade skills. Math, they need to understand numbers and calculations to use a spreadsheet. They wanted experience. It would be nice if job candidates had the ability to walk right onto an installation without having to do months and months of training. And then finally, using tools. You can't be clumsy with power tools. So our interviews indicated that trade programs often do a good job of teaching basic carpentry, mechanical, and technical skills, but they're often light on the energy efficiency, or they may not address the building as a system, a whole system approach. And some of the energy efficiency specific programs like weatherization training or BPI training, they may do a great job of covering some of those energy efficiency skills, but some trainees, especially those without a trade background, may need more remedial courses and hands-on learning opportunities. So the employers that we interviewed, many of them did indicate that they do expect to do some training on the job. They don't need employees to have everything down when they come on the job, but they indicated that qualified job candidates meant a short training period, whereas unqualified job candidates, they might take 2 or 3 times longer to train. And that really results in lost revenue for these struggling energy efficiency employers. The second main reason that energy efficiency employers gave for the hiring difficulty was competition and a small applicant pool. So this is some of the things that we heard. We train them, we get them interested in it, and somebody flips them a different job with more money and they just run off. Pay, they're fine working really hard, but they'd like to at least be making something that matches up with what they're doing. And then finally, too many choices. There's just so many different options to choose from, you know. And then the third main reason that employers gave for hiring difficulty was insufficient non-technical skills. So business skills, entrepreneurial skills, dependability, communication, critical thinking, those were all noted by the employers that we interviewed. One said, they need essential skills, showing up on time, putting in a day's work, being punctual and accountable. So in short, the training needs that were identified through our research was they'd like to see more energy efficiency content in the trade programs, especially at community colleges. Employers would like more remedial courses offered for those who may be underprepared for the work they're doing. Many indicated that they'd like to see more hands-on learning opportunities, as well as more opportunities to learn soft skills. And then finally, although many of our interviewees did indicate that they have strong relationships, that trainers do have strong relationships with employers, many of them would like to see those relationships strengthened. One employer said, "We have not been approached by any kind of training programs that are able to provide qualified applicants for what we do." And then another trainer said, if we're producing people that no one's hiring, then that's just a program. It's just there to make me look good, suggesting the need to work together, to have trainers and employers work together to make sure that their training programs are meeting the needs of employers. Several people we interviewed talked about the important need of making training opportunities more accessible. And this really relates to what we were talking about earlier, what Robin was talking about earlier with increasing diversity. So is it possible to have training delivered in community hubs so people don't have to travel so far? Can training be offered for different schedules so people who are already working can be trained at night? Can training be tailored to a particular population? Can online training options be offered? Can more credentialing or certification be offered so that people don't necessarily have to go through a degree program to become trained? And then how can we access more Workforce and Innovation and Opportunity Act funding to train people? So when we were doing interviews, we had the great honor to interview David Northern, who's the director of the Housing Authority of Champaign, the Public Housing Authority of Champaign County. And they recently started a program called Youth Build, where they are training people for the construction trade. And as I was interviewing him, it just really struck me what a wonderful job they do of training people with those technical skills as well as those soft skills and helping people get hands-on experience. And I'm happy to feature them here. We'll be showing a little video about Youth Build. Thank you.
Youth Build is a comprehensive youth development program. The focus of our program is individuals who are age 16 to 24 years old, and we take young people who have dropped out of high school or other populations who are experiencing unique factors in life that make employment and education difficult. And we provide high school diploma, industry recognized certification, and of course they get mentorship and just the guidance of having a support system and a network of people to fall back on when you need help.
Administer the NCCER curriculum to the Youth Build participants, which is a classroom modules that teach them construction, the basics of construction, 8 modules that have construction math, basic tools, hand tools, and power tools. And I also am the construction project manager for Youth Build. I line the Youth Build students up with their in the field training as well.
We partner with the Penn Foster online high school diploma degree program, and I correlate that along with other instructional techniques to help the students be able to obtain their high school diploma. Unfortunately, we find that most of the students that come in, it's kind of a twofold effect. Number one, the schools have decided that they're not able to succeed, so they've dismissed them. And then along with that, since the students know that, then they come in with a defeatist attitude. So a lot of the time in the very beginning, it's a lot of time spent building self-esteem, helping them to uncover skills that they had that they may have forgotten.
Say I stick to myself, so getting up, giving me a place to go, somewhere that you feel like you could be comfortable at. I was one of the kids that stayed to myself. I never wanted to socialize. It's not because I didn't know people, it's just because keeping yourself in a box is kind of like more protection for you.
My career plans for the future is going to college and also obtaining a job while in college. Being on time is important. It's important because it's important becoming a leader and also preparing me to be successful in life.
The most valuable thing I learned in Youth Build is a job experience because that's what I didn't have before I came here. Plus, they gave me another chance to get my education. That's part of being in Youth Build really is everything. You got a lot of benefits. You get your high school diploma, a housing voucher. Really, it's no losses in Youth Build.
Awesome video. Thank you so much to Youth Build of the Housing Authority of Champaign County for filming with us. You may see more footage and films coming out. We have so much awesome footage from speaking with them, but it's so inspirational, especially talking about how valuable that these skills and training programs can be for our youth and for individuals in our community. Let us move on to our final presentation of the day. We are going to now shift, and I'm sure you've already been talking about this, but propose solutions to building this and growing and diversifying this energy efficiency workforce. So Dr. Bryant Deal, Executive Director of SEDAC, will present our findings and solutions to building a more equitable workforce. And if you'd like to learn more about Dr. Deal, his bio will be in the document, in the chat document for bios. But welcome, Dr. Deal. We're excited to have you speak today.
Thanks, Cassie. And I know we're all getting tired at the end, but I really do appreciate the participation and the conversations that we've had. And I think it's been a terrific day. And so what I'm going to talk about is to summarize some of the things that we've been discussing and think about the path forward. And the path forward is, how do we deal with these questions and what kinds of programs might we envision that can deal with some of the issues that we've raised and that you've raised over the course of the day. These are the stakeholders that we've been talking about in general here, and we're going to lump them together into 3 for convenience. But we have job seekers, the job training programs, and the employers. This is our fundamental groups, and I'll go through talking about each one of them in more detail. So the consensus is that the connections between these groups are not strong enough. There are connections and there are programs, and we've talked about some of them in my group, especially. We talked about some of the things that are happening, but somehow the connections aren't strong enough to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, and they're not strong enough to hit that 8% job growth, and they're not strong enough in terms of the training programs and pushing people out. They're not strong enough to accomplish, what the employers need. They're finding it difficult to get people in the door. And so what we're going to discuss a little bit here is ways to deal with these connections. And so we've heard these concerns, and I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but we have a lack of awareness. Generally, people are stumbling into the job market. One of the people in my group has an environmental science background, and she is really keen on the job of energy efficiency, but she kind of stumbled into it by mistake, which turns out to be, not by mistake, I should say, but she stumbled into it, it wasn't intentional. And I think that's becoming more the norm. The training pathways aren't clear. It's not clear how to get into the arena in the first place. And one of the other issues we heard was the lack of diversity. So these programs are struggling to recruit certain types of people, and certain groups are being left out of the energy efficiency arena. Many report low enrollments. There's lots of barriers to that Dr. Jarrett mentioned that need to be overcome on that front. We also heard of the skills and training gaps between the employers and the training groups. So we don't have feedback. The employers aren't necessarily finding the job seekers that they need. They're not ready to go. The training programs maybe aren't filling the needs that the employers have. So stronger connections are needed to recruit and to engage. So how do we go about strengthening these connections? I mean, the goal is to put these groups together and to grow this energy efficiency workforce with lots of different people, a really diverse group of people. And how might these stronger connections facilitate this goal? So we need to fill this training gap, the gap between the employers and the trainers. We talked about that, and the needs that the employers have. We need some kind of coordination and feedback between employers and trainers. We need to be able to tell the training programs, here's what we need. The employers need to be able to articulate it in the first place, and then the programs need to be nimble enough to address those questions and to produce those kinds of people. So we need to facilitate the conversations. And the way I envision this is peer-to-peer learning. I find it to be so critical for most everything, is that if you can hear from somebody who's been through the things that you're currently experiencing, you learn a lot. I learned a lot from the colleagues who came before me. I learned a lot about how to manage my job, how to deal with some of the things that I deal with. And that peer-to-peer learning can be really effective for employers to help them learn how to articulate what they need, how to figure out, where to find the people that they need, and how to articulate to the training programs the kinds of people that they have. So we're thinking about articulating these roundtable discussions where collaboratives, I might call them collaboratives, but where the peer-to-peer learning starts to take shape. And from that peer-to-peer learning, these needs become articulated and easier then to address. And I think that this peer-to-peer thing works in all 3 groups. It's not just the employers, but the training programs also need to talk to each other about what they're doing. Here's the employers giving us a 5-year, say, outlook on the kinds of jobs that are coming up. and the training programs, and then need to talk to each other about who's doing what and how are we addressing those questions and what might our role be in producing job seekers who can fulfill those jobs. And the CBOs can help a lot with this. CBOs can help a lot in raising awareness with job seekers, initiating that kind of collaborative conversation between seekers. But to me, that's also really important. The job seekers learn from each other. Here's how I did. Here's how it worked for me. Those are really important learning exchanges. It's not always the professor standing about professing how to do something. It's here's how it worked for me. Those are really important conversations to have. And we need the connection between the seekers and employers, and ultimately is what we're talking about. So the training programs are getting them ready, and the employers then need to be able to articulate the kinds of people. We talked about that already. And the CBOs need to be able to find those kinds of people who can fill those kinds of positions, sometimes directly and sometimes through these training programs. So this is what's needed, is this middle piece, these workforce coordinators and CBOs coordinating activities and smoothing the connections. As I said, these people exist and these places exist, but maybe the connections aren't quite strong enough, that there's not a central way to coordinate some of this stuff. So we're trying to address this, and our job was to do the research on this and to try to figure out how to go about thinking about it. Not only how to go about thinking about it, but then how to address some of the issues that we found. And here's what we're proposing. We're proposing a pilot program that will start to address some of these questions, and we're hoping that it flourishes and has legs and becomes sustained over time. But we're talking about dealing with the questions that have been raised throughout the day, addressing the gaps in awareness, increasing the coordination among the employers, trainers, and seekers, enhancing the communication across the current system. As I said, the system is there. Sometimes maybe it means a little bit of a tweak here and there to make it work better. And then augmenting some of the other initiatives that are going on and making the awareness of some of the other things become clearer. I think it'll help a lot in terms of articulating the kinds of jobs that are needed down the road. So this is the focus of our work, our proposal. We're targeting specific groups, clearly the ones that we've been talking about today, underrepresented groups, and other groups like formerly incarcerated individuals, people who are really experiencing these barriers that we've been talking about. Both of these groups, I think, are really critical for success. And our group talked about potential ways to deal with each one of those groups. And I know most of the other groups probably had similar conversations, but we see short-term and long-term interventions are needed. Some of them, we have this problem right now, especially in the COVID era. Making these connections can be even more difficult and more tedious. And so we need to fill those short-term things. Where are the stresses right now? How do we deal with those stresses in terms of putting people in position to succeed? And then building that long-term pipeline, what's coming down the line? How do we deal with that question? And after that, and after that, and after that. So we need to put in place this critical infrastructure to make this whole system work better and sustain itself. That's our goal. And it might look something like this theoretically, is that we're going to put something in the center here that's going to help move things along. So we have these collaboratives where we talk about peer-to-peer learning, but then some entity, and we're hoping a program like this can do it, it needs to take that information from the employer and make the job seekers aware of it. We need to take it from the employer and make the training programs aware of it. We need to connect the job seekers to these training programs, say, look, in a couple of years, you're going to be ready for this kind of job. And these kinds of jobs are the jobs that are going to be out there and ready for you. So we need to make all of that clearer and more obvious and grease the skids a little bit, identifying and supporting and raising awareness and the questions that we've discussed. But the overall goal is to grow this workforce, reduce the stresses on all three of these groups through communication and other devices. So the process that we're proposing is in 7 steps. One of it is as I talked about already, this peer-to-peer learning and outreach. So connecting these groups to themselves first. What's going on in each one of these arenas, and how do we learn from each other? I think those are really important parts of it. In my personal career, I find that student-to-student learning is just as important, if not more important, than what I say in the classroom. That they learn so much from this other perspective of another person saying it to them in a slightly different way, sometimes can have a really big impact, especially if they're peer individuals. The second is to go to places, and we think it has to be done regionally, but go to specific places and regions and figure out what's going on. So those peer-to-peer exchanges help us to forecast what's happening. Here's the things that are happening. Here's the trends. Here's the types of jobs that are coming up. Here's the wind energy stuff is really picking up in this county. It really needs to be addressed. There's lots of jobs available in this arena. And then we need to work with the community-based organizations to help find the job seekers. The community organizations typically have their ear to the ground and they understand their place and their region. And we would depend on them a lot to help us to identify those seekers and put the seekers in the room for that peer-to-peer learning, also to connect them with the training programs and physically directly to the employers. The community engagement work is critical for this, and that's that working with the CBOs to engage the community in these conversations, recruiting, et cetera. And then the training part, and I've already discussed, but working with the trainers in that region to start to shape their programs to aim at the kinds of jobs that are coming up and the kinds of jobs that are both there in the short term and then the long-term prognosis for jobs. The solar outlook is so incredibly strong right now, and some of the other stuff in terms of efficiency, Ameren has a lot of energy efficiency programs, and they need people that can supply and participate in these programs. And then the training support, things that actually we're pretty good at is that educational piece and supporting these programs and the trainees, help them find jobs and internships, and help the training programs to modify their offerings to address some of the weaknesses or gaps that we're finding. And for us, a process of evaluation provides that feedback back to the system to say, here's what's working, here's what's not working, here's the other things that need to happen. That part is critical. So a constant process of evaluation and feedback so that we continue to improve what we do and how it works. So that's what we're proposing. And that's generally the way we think we might go about it. We obviously are looking for feedback on this, the same way we look for feedback on what we found in terms of the barriers and the training program gaps and the diversity problems. So we're also looking for feedback on this. And the next section, I think, or the next discussion, we're hoping to get your input on how we're thinking about this.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. And I think we have Angie that wants to hop in and say something really quickly to the group as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Angie Ostaszewski, and I'm with the Ameren, Illinois team working on the Market Development Initiative. So I know we're nearing the end of the day. We really appreciate everyone providing their feedback. This last session is extra crucial because we really want your feedback on the design of this pilot. For us, this process needs to be inclusive and equitable, and we want to capture not just your insights and expertise, but also your hopes and aspirations for what our communities can look like in the future. So I don't want to stand between everyone in the last breakout, so I'll just briefly say we're very excited to continue this work and launch this pilot. We have 25 partnerships in place, 25 plus, that we are leveraging to support these efforts. We want everything to work together, and our success is built on partnerships with many of the organizations that are on this call today. So whether it's in this pilot or otherwise, if you'd like to be involved in this work, please go to the website shown here, get in touch with me after the call. Our success is together through our collaboration. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And again, we really, really appreciate your feedback.
Thank you so much, Angie. And thank you, Dr. Deal, for your presentation on those findings. We will send a follow-up survey after the summit has concluded, so very shortly after. So please indicate your interest in continuing conversation with us in that survey, and we will collaborate with you to find a time to continue these conversations. So I know there's so much to cover today in today's session, but I hope that you felt like you've been able to contribute and really had a great time in your breakouts. Thank you for everybody participating. I do want to take a moment to just kind of recap some of the themes that we saw today. So on the back end of our team, Taylor White, part of 360 Energy Group and SEDAC, has taken all of our discussion boards and created some key themes from our discussions. So under lack of awareness of energy efficiency careers, it sounds like time management and time is a theme, interest from students. The elderly community was something that there's a lack of awareness in the elderly community. Training, lack of training and providing free training, or I can zoom in here too, having a track that leads to jobs. So focusing on community career opportunities and training our community about all the great things in energy efficiency. Working at the grade school and high school level, yes, and building curriculum and trade programs to help us increase awareness of the energy efficiency realm. And by the way, I will be sharing all these out at the end. I'm just quickly summarizing everything. When we talked about diversity, we in the energy efficiency workforce, here's some of the key barriers, as well as the role of mentors and how having someone you can relate to, jump-starting the people, just about how mentorship is so important in this field, as well as the training that is associated with mentorships as well, and providing quality training to find jobs. That's something that we talked about in our discussion group, was having jobs at the end of the training is really important to maintaining a diverse workforce. Some of the barriers too, I know there was appearance or stereotypes or lack of experience. But at the end, we really wanted to have social support for diverse groups around the energy efficiency workforce, and collaboration in organizations within diverse communities to really be able to drive integration into our workforce. But there's still perceptions, but we need to have encouragement and I love this is big, be flexible and compassionate. And I really do like that. I think that drives home from today's earlier conversations with Richard Mark as well, the CEO of Ameren, Illinois. Finally, we talked about skills and training gaps. There's training, hands-on experience, allowing apprenticeships and training programs, skills learned as an intern. Math and financial skills seem to be a big barrier. And we even talked about in our group about taking tests, preparing our students to be able to take certifications to get energy efficiency jobs is important. Computer skills was something that came up, and being able to use power tools, and then soft skills, of course, are always important in the workforce. Professional rapport and appearance is important, and interpersonal skills. So those are some of the skills and training gaps that we discussed today. But this all culminates into, all right, we've got a lot of really great ideas. Now, how can we move this forward in the workforce? And so we have another board that all of our note takers are working on, and it looks like a mess, but it has a lot of really great points. We talked about the okay connections, and then the weak connections. So we think right now that, connections of community, weatherization training in Illinois is a strong connector. Silos are strong. I like that keynote. I like that note. Silos are strong. Unfortunately, we need to break down those silos and create pathways within the workforce and within our communities to pull these resources together to support diverse audiences and people to grow in this energy efficiency workforce. Some moderate connections looks like there's some employer to community based outreach, working with employers to grow connections. Connections to grade schools, there's some connections, but still it sounds like it's pretty weak. There's no centralized plan of alignment across institutions. I like that one. So there's still a lot of weak connections, but there are things that are strong. And then I will show this, but I won't go into this fully since we're kind of at our time. But there's communication. We'll summarize the communication channels that can improve, the ways that we can improve roles between employers and trainers and workforce and coordinators and CBOs. But just to give you a preview, some things that workforce coordinators and CBOs can do, provide mentorship, need to understand who their audiences are, doing more dialogue to try to align institutions. I like that. Help with soft skills and peer-to-peer learning, and identify viable career paths for individuals. So I know this was a whirlwind summary. We will summarize all of this as well, but I want to leave you with this as a leaving note for our session today, and let you know that we will continue these conversations. And so I will, be sending out all of the recordings, all of the slides and videos, as well as a summary at the end of, or 1 week after the summit. But I want to thank you all first and foremost for joining us today on how we can build this and grow and diversify this energy efficiency workforce. I really hope you all are as energized as I am after our discussions, and I hope you're hungry for more conversations around this topic. As soon as it's available, I'll share everything, as I mentioned. I'll send that follow-up survey here very shortly, within the next 30 minutes or less, to you all who have attended today, to provide some feedback and final thoughts, and you can capture all of your thoughts. Please feel free to pop them in the chat too as I'm wrapping up, but we will have an opportunity to do that as well through the survey. And before we end, I'd like to give a digital round of applause for all of our speakers. So thank you so much to all of our speakers. Thank you as well to Kristol Sims for sticking around with us throughout the summit, and Jamira Burley and Richard Mark and all of our presenters today. Thank you to all of our note takers and moderators, as well as our project partners. And finally, I'd like to thank our program sponsor, Ameren Illinois Energy Efficiency Program, for making today's event possible. We could not be more thrilled to put all of our feedback today into action in Central and Southern Illinois. And thank you, as it's been said so many times, for your leadership in this arena and for bringing us all together today. So again, thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. We look forward to developing an action plan from today's discussion with you. And I hope that you have a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much, and take care, everybody.